Hi, it's Kirby Summers. Today is Friday, December 20th. We're a couple of days away from Christmas and I guess the end of 2024. Today I'm going to be talking about the unexpected connection of a high-ranking UK politician who is in the news currently and the music industry, as we have been exploring, I would say, very deeply within the last 6 months. I don't believe that anyone else is talking about this. And these are the subjects that my members here and my new subscribers come to my channel to hear about. Before I get started, I want to give a big shout out and a big thank you to all of the people who have supported my super thanks. It is enabled on this platform. There are three little dots because I don't do live. I just don't know how to do it. I might teach myself how to do it, but until I do, all I have are super thanks. And or one has the option of visiting my website and making a one-time contribution, which enables me to keep almost 50%, sorry, almost 90%, as opposed to the 50% that I get if it's done directly on this platform. That said, anything helps. And if you only can just give this a like, that works too. The person I'm going to be talking about today is Peter Mandelson. And while that name may sound familiar to everyone who followed the Geffen case, and I'm going to have to use some weird, odd code words for a lot of this content, I think. I'm not sure because we are going into the music aspect of it and things that have not really been discussed. First, I want to say that now Lord Peter Mandelson, because yes, he received a title. What have I told all of you about people who receive titles? Anyway, that said, he is anticipated to be appointed as the next UK ambassador to the United States, pretty much commencing for Donald Trump's win, and he takes office in less than 2 months, well, approximately 2 months from now. Mandelson served in the cabinets of Sir Tony Blair and Gordon Brown, and Mandelson is on track to becoming the United Kingdom's leading diplomat in Washington. Well, we do know that Mandelson had a couple of glitches, and I'm just going to briefly go through this stuff, and it'll give you food for thought if you want to dig deeper. There's a lot of DIRT on this, enough to keep you active for 3 years. Seriously, all of these nooks and crannies would be enough to keep you active on a daily basis for 3 years, if not more. So I'm only going to be able to skim the surface, if that. But the music industry is involved, and the Jeff person connections are clear. So let me get started. Mandelson has had some moments where he has been forced to resign because of certain things that he has done. So he resigned as an MP in 2004, ostensibly to become a European commissioner, and then he returned to government in 2008 when Brown awarded him the peerage. Oh, okay. Suddenly everyone can call me Lord. I'll come back. Sure. And then he appointed him business secretary. More recently, Lord Mandelson ran for the position. Now, this is an older article I'm reading from, and I just want to give you a heads up that I have 26 pages of notes, and I may have to jump up and down, scroll up and down through this to give you the tea on the information I have been digging up when I heard about the Mandelson situation. In any event, more recently, Lord Mandelson ran for the position of Chancellor at Oxford University. Now, that's a very prestigious university. Who went to Oxford? Bill Clinton went to Oxford, and a very long list of other people connected to the people we have been discussing on my platform and other platforms. But he was defeated by former conservative leader Lord William Hague. Well, here's the thing, and I quickly looked around on X and see that people are saying, well, how could Peter Mandelson be the ambassador to the UK? I'm sorry, to the United States. Uh, and this is directly tied into Keir Starmer because the argument, as per what I see on X, is that Elon Musk, who I don't know why people fall for the Elon Musk, the arbiter of free speech. Elon Musk, the billionaire who's not a billionaire. Come on, people. You do not get to be a billionaire without having done some ILLEGAL things. Please don't fall for the. Every time I get a new follower, ever since Musk threw me off Twitter when he acquired it in November of 2022, I go into their account and I look to see if they have either retweeted Musk or are following Musk. And that gives me the ability to discern who to pay attention to and who really is not looking at things clearly. In any event, people somehow believe that Elon Musk is sincere in his quote, negotiating for the release of the Geffen documents and the Geffen list. Hello. Do you guys really believe that's going to happen? First of all, there is no list per se. We can assume that everyone who has been photographed and or whose name appeared on flight logs, and again, I want to remind you that you've only seen flight logs for a very short number of years. You've only seen information for 2 out of 4 pilots. And it's funny because I just did a newsletter. A very in-depth article I uploaded to my Substack. Thank you, by the way, to those of you who have heard me on this platform and who have become subscribers to my Substack. I appreciate it because really that is where my very deep dives are. And I have about 250 dives to read. A lot of them are series, multiple series that eventually will become books. I think, if I decide to go that route. And that's where I answer everyone's questions. Hey, before I keep going, give this a like, give this a like, it helps the algorithm. So people believe that somehow Mandelson is going to be caught in the crosshairs because, hey, Elon Musk is negotiating for the release of Jeff's list. Come on. If anything, it's to ensure that certain names are redacted from whatever information, but don't hold your breath because personally, I'm not holding my breath. I'm just not, it's posturing. It means nothing, nothing. Literally. I'm sorry if you disagree with me, but I haven't been dealing with billionaires, plural, without knowing that everything they say can be construed as a lie. Okay? They're mind games, mind games. But so to quickly give you basically a throwback into Mandelson's history with Jeff, not only do we have photos, we have the very widespread photograph of Mandelson in the Virgin Islands buying a belt with his friend Jeff. We have that, we've seen it. We've also seen the photograph of Mandelson at his friend's very luxurious apartment in Paris, celebrating his birthday with a very, very extravagant cake presented to him by his friend, blowing out the candles. But, there's more. And I'm only going to briefly describe this stuff because I want to get to the music aspect of this. I want you guys to remember a photograph taken during the 2005 Victoria's Secret fashion show. It was a wide lens photograph showing Wexy and his arranged wife, Abigail, sitting to the far left as we look at the photograph. And then as we move across the front row, we see Jeff sitting, talking to a Saudi man who later appeared in the news for a millisecond, accused by a boy of behaviors that are being attributed to the Combs case when he was younger, and that disappeared from the news. It had begun as a lawsuit. I really didn't stay on top of it because I've had so much more happening. But what I want to state here is that Mandelson he's out of the closet. He's been out of the closet for a very long time. Whenever anyone in the past brought up his very close relationship with Jeff, the response was always, oh, well, he could not have been involved in any of that because his preference is male. I just explained to you that there was a lawsuit by a male against Jeff and against this Saudi Arabian very high-level person whose name I will not say, but you can just go to the photograph and maybe you'll recognize him from 2005. There's still a lot of information that you can find if you read newspapers that are outside of the United States. And so, yeah, there were boys, there were males. So I don't see, and there have been connections and overlapping connections. For example, Naomi Campbell has been involved in the Combs case, in the other one regarding Jeff, in the what was it, the Son of God? What was the something God? Who was very friendly with Oprah Winfrey, something God. If you have that name, put it below because I didn't bother to get that for this conversation because I guess I'm going off track. However, there are overlapping names, and we know that in that photograph, that wide photograph taken at the Victoria's Secret show in 2005, well, Tommy Mottola was in the audience and other people in the music industry. And even at the time that this came out, I would tweet in my now gone Twitter account, thanks to Musk, that there's a lot about the music industry that no one was looking into. Well, it took us, what, 5 years to finally get here? And really, and guys, I mean, I stopped to chuckle a little bit. Not because this is not a crushing, a crushing sort of like awakening that and a reinforcement that traditional media never really provides the accurate information. It sort of like covers up layer after layer, decade after decade, because if we go back to the 1950s, the same behavior that we are now, well, that most people, because I've known for a bit, but that most people are now becoming cognizant of, the same behavior has been repeated name after name. Look at Clive Davis. He's 91, 92. Come on. But there's another name that's going to come up here that you have heard as it pertains to the diddler, and which people don't know is connected to our friend Mandelson. But before I get to him, I want to just keep reviewing that he was in touch with Jeff, meaning Peter Mandelson, when Jeff was incarcerated in Florida. So during that time, there was communication. Frankly, I have the phone logs. It's like 1,600 pages. And I remember downloading it in 2019, I believe, and offering the phone logs or the visitor logs, sorry, to Julie K. Brown because she was saying that she didn't have them, and I offered to send them to her because I somehow had them. I saw them somewhere. I downloaded it. And they're kind of scrambled, so you can tell that there was some effort in trying to scramble it. But if you spent time, you could piece together the names and who went to visit him and see the date and all of that. So I know I had it, and I may have uploaded it to my Patreon in 2000. I don't know. I think I uploaded it a very long time ago. I mean, people who are members of my Patreon, you really should look at the stuff I've uploaded that is in PDF format, not just the podcasts that I create for you guys. In fact, I uploaded another PDF for you this morning, which is an important document that is hard to find, which is a top secret document, by the way. Let me get back to Mandelson. So he was not just in touch with him while he was in the slammer, he also stayed in his house in Manhattan while he was in the slammer. And he is very close, of course, to Prince Andrew. And he seems to have ties to the same banking institution, let's say, that Jeff was involved with, and we're talking about Mandelson. So additional information regarding the Mandelson-Jeff friendship, let's call it, became a little better known after JP Morgan released a report that had to be filed in the New York court, because if you remember, they were sued not just by the British Virgin Islands, but they were sued by some of Jeff's VICTIMS. And so they needed to respond, and they did so in various documentation. The way that Jeff used to refer to him, it was a very casual name. He called him PT. Now, I know people who are named Peter, and when I want to get casual with them, I call them Pete. But I've never called anyone whose name is Peter. I've never called them PT, never. And I think that's sort of a name that denotes not just well, it's basically it would be something that your significant other probably would call you. And enough said about that. I do want you to know that on this platform, I uploaded a complete reading of an article I have on my Substack showing, let's just say, JE's other side. And I'm going to leave it there and hope you have followed what I meant to say. So at the time, the bank codenamed their JEFF inquiry Project Jeep. I mean, everything has the word SPY all over it. And then it basically was commissioned to shed light on JP Morgan's 15-year relationship with him. And it referred to various meetings and conversations between Jeff and Mandelson. And then it stated that on June 2009, when he was the UK business secretary, Mandelson stayed at Eppie's phenomenal mansion in Manhattan, which I stated a little bit earlier. And this is again while he was in his day jail. And just give me a couple of seconds here, because as I said, I have 26 pages. So Jeff wrote to Jess Staley, then his personal banker at JP Morgan, regarding Mandelson. He said, well, for all intents and purposes, Peter Mandelson is now Deputy Prime Minister. So during this time, he was serving an 18-month sentence, and we know that he didn't even complete the whole sentence, and the whole thing was a sham, as has been many other things in Palm Beach. He wasn't released on probation until July 22nd of 2009. But however, even from behind bars, he was in regular communication with many of his influential contacts. Then he writes to Staley again on June 17th, and he says, Peter will be staying over at 71st Street for the weekend. Do you want to organize either you or you and Jamie? And then he left the last name blank, indicating that it's Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase. Jamie Dimon, top guy. We know that JP Morgan agreed to settle. The amount was shy of $80 million in order for this problem to just disappear. It's interesting because settlements, I'm not a believer in settlements. I have never accepted a settlement. Settlements come with no one can talk about things anymore, and then there's no due process. That said, I'm also very distrustful of the court system because I saw what happened not just in Ghislaine Maxwell's trial, but I see what happens with compromised, let's say, individuals who sit behind the high table in the courtroom. Okay, I can't say more than that here. And you know what, for you to maybe understand it better, I want you to think about what happened in the Franklin case, where the people, I'm going to call them people for now, who stepped forward to talk about the horrific things they had endured as younger, not of age, at the hands of very powerful people in many cities and states, they were made to recant. And the ones who did not recant were sent to jail, and or the others were made to disappear. We also know this is a very big problem in the UK. We know that with the SAVILLE, with Jimmy's many allegations, nothing was ever done. He too was made a sir. And when he died, he was still a sir. And he got the funeral of a king. Who else got a funeral like a king? Robert Maxwell. Now, it is alleged that Ghislaine introduced her friend Jeff to Mandelson because at one time her father, Robert, was a Labor MP. In 2014, Mandelson became a founding citizen of Maxwell's Terramar. Remember Terramar? The minute that July 6, 2019 rolled around, when Jeff was abducted, I was going to say abducted by police officers and FBI, but I'll just say arrested. You know, I'm trying to use other words, but I'll just say arrested. Did you see that within a week, the United States branch, because she had two branches. I don't know if you're aware of that. She had one in the UK for Terramar and one in the US. And in fact, well, you know, I've got so much here to share with you that I will come back to the in fact blank at the end of this if for some reason we have some time to do so. So yeah, he was a founding citizen of Terramar. It was, quote, a nonprofit ocean conservation group founded by Ghislaine, and it had financial support from her friend JEFF. And one person close to Mandelson said he had never done business with Jeff. No, it's like the Jay Z and Puff situation. They're not friends. They maybe see each other in passing. So this is certainly what was being done. Everyone backpedals. Oh, I don't know him. No, but wait, this gets really good. This gets really good. So that he's like, no, I don't really know Jeff. Now, he's stayed in his homes. He's celebrated his birthday with him in Paris. He is included in communication with JP Morgan, the internal documentation where apparently they're also working with Mandelson, who is connected to a spy Oh God, there's just so much. Maybe I might need to just, well, connect it to another spy. Okay, I fixed that. Oh man, there's just so much. I told you it'll take 3 years for you guys if you want to dig into a project. This would be it. So he said that, oh, well, no, the association with Jeff was principally through Ghislaine, which is basically what Prince Andrew also said. Oh, he was just the plus one. I didn't know him. Okay, sure. Let's just keep going. And then, of course, there was the obligatory statement. Lord Mandelson very much regrets ever having been introduced to EPSTEIN. However, the connection had been a matter of public record for some time, and it had been discovered that Mandelson's dealings with the super wealthy had gotten him into hot water before, forcing him to resign, specifically on two very different occasions, from his early days with the new Labor government. So again, he quit as cabinet minister in 1998 after it was disclosed that he had secretly borrowed £373,000 to buy a house. Now, mind you, he had to borrow in 1998 £373 to buy a house. Today, if you look at his net worth, it is astounding. You always have to look at the trajectory of somebody's net worth. So if he had to borrow money, and quite frankly, it meant that he didn't have sufficient funds, and the fact that it was done secretly shows you that he didn't have sufficient funds to even anyway. So that became a scandal. And then he resigned again after being accused of helping one of the Hindu Hub brothers get a passport in return for a £1 million donation for the government's Millennium Dome project. Now, although he was cleared by an inquiry, again, I don't really hang my hat, so to speak, on people being cleared because I don't really trust the system. And when I say the system anywhere, I just don't. When Mandelson stayed in Jeff's home in 2009, it was just a year after another scandal that Mandelson was involved in, and that's one with Oleg Deripaska. Deripaska. He's a Russian oligarch, and he is suppose on paper he is a Russian aluminum billionaire. However, what he really is he is the front man for Vladimir Putin. Okay. He is also very close to Nat Rothschild. So in 2008, it had been discovered and became quite a scandal that Mandelson was very cozy with Oleg Deripaska. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And that he was on a luxury yacht off the coast of Corfu. It was arranged by the banker Nat Rothschild, who was a mutual friend. And then later in the summer of 2009, Mandelson returned to Corfu as a guest of the Rothschild family, where he once again had another scandal, another controversy, because this time he was meeting the son of Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi. Now, on my Substack, I wrote a lengthy article about Gaddafi, who in the 1970s I discovered was connected to the Children of God. That was a cult that promoted a certain type of behavior with very young ones, meaning very young, not even like, with the teen attached to it, another previous to that age. Okay, so an FBI official by the name of Charles McGonigal was arrested for helping Oleg Deripaska again, a former FBI official was arrested for working with this Russian tycoon who is basically Vladimir Putin's agent. Mandelson was not arrested, but this guy who worked for the FBI as an FBI agent was arrested. Now, I did jot down the terms of the arrest, and I will quickly run through that so that you understand that we're dealing with a bunch of very shadowy figures, even those who are in the public spotlight. I know that the saying and what most people say is if you can see them, they're not important. Well, that's not necessarily true. For example, we can see Prince Andrew, but we also know that it is believed that he had been up to some shenanigans. We can see Mandelson, and we know, yeah, you know what? It doesn't really smell all that rosy. I mean, it's been one scandal after another, after another, after another, and yet he is still floating. And I haven't even gotten to the good part yet with the music industry. So stay tuned. There's a lot more to unpack here. So, regarding the arrest of the FBI agent, the on Thursday, December 14, 2023, a special bulletin by the FBI was released. Former special agent in charge of the New York FBI Counterintelligence Division sentenced to 50 months for conspiring to violate U.S. sanctions on Russia. And then it goes on to read, a former special agent in charge of the FBI Counterintelligence Division in New York was sentenced to 50 months in prison in order to pay a $40,000 fine for conspiring to violate the International Emergency Economics Powers Act and to commit money laundering in connection with his 2021 agreement to provide services to Oleg Deripaska, a sanctioned Russian oligarch. According to court documents and statements made in court proceedings, Charles McGonigal, 55, of New York, pleaded guilty in August. Charles McGonigal helped advance the interests of a sanctioned Russian oligarch, breaking his oath to safeguard our nation and uphold its laws, said Assistant Attorney General Matthew G. Olson of the Justice Department's National Security Division. Today's sentence holds him accountable for this betrayal and demonstrates this department's commitment to deny designated individuals the means to circumvent U.S. sanctions. Charles McGonigal violated the trust his country placed in him by using his high-level position at the FBI to prepare for his future in business, said U.S. Attorney Damian Williams for the Southern District of New York. Now, I want to point out that the only reason I'm reading this is because this guy is connected to Mandelson and to the people in Mandelson's world. Now, let's get to the music part of this. Yes, David Geffen and Lucien Grange are close friends of who? Mandelson. Okay. In 2011, a Freedom of Information response has revealed that Lord Mandelson had decided to approve the Digital Economy Act before public consultations had concluded, showing that there was absolutely no interest in seeing what the public had to say. So to break that down, something appeared, it needed to be processed properly, proper channels. However, it had not been processed properly before. He immediately approved this. Okay. Now, I'm going to continue with reading this statement. The shocking revelations show that Lord Mandelson, who was voted as the Internet Villain of the Year for 2010, made the decision to forge ahead with the Digital Economy Act as much as 2 months before the end of public consultations, effectively negating any contributions for or against the proposals that anyone else could make. The letters from Mandelson's office reveal that he was in talks with Lucien Grange, CEO of Universal Music Group, on July 2nd, 2009. The following day, Mandelson advised Lord Carter about the possibility of the Secretary of State having a power to direct Ofcom to go directly to introduction of technical measures. So I'm going to skip ahead a couple of paragraphs and say Mandelson was criticized at the time for making his decision shortly after visiting a villa in Corfu with David Geffen, the founder of DreamWorks. He denied that this meeting had any impact on his decision, but it appears that he had given the act the green light after discussions with Grange, which paints an even bigger question mark over the entire process, given Grange's position in the music industry. So then it goes on to say the problem is not the fact that Mandelson had made a decision, but that he feigned public opinion. He feigned that public opinion would be taken into consideration. So he made the public believe that their input was a crucial factor in making the determination. And here's what I want you guys to get from this. And I'll return to Lucien Grange in a second. But don't you, first of all, don't you think it's interesting that he's got these music Hollywood connections that are also connected to the Diddy case, also connected to the Harvey Weinstein case, connected to the rap music industry that we're studying now, and that this happened at around the time that he was in very close contact with Jeff? I want you to put a pin in that and think about this. So what Mandelson said publicly to the voters was, hey, you're going to be participating in this, but in reality, it was just a ruse to keep people quiet while the details of the act were planned out behind closed doors, which is typically what happens with everything that's introduced. So you have to keep your eyes peeled whenever something is being introduced, because literally you, me, us, the public, what we think and how we feel and how we would vote for something is not ever really taken into consideration, despite all of the propaganda given to us to make us believe elsewhere. So what this is a long, there's a long description for this digital project. However, it was a bill that would introduce fines of up to £50,000. We're talking about the UK for and making it a criminal offense relating to copyright infringement. For example, if music is downloaded. So the music industry now on a decline because people were beginning no longer to buy CDs, right? It was the beginning of the end of the music industry as it had been previous, decided to get their friend Peter Mandelson to make it a crime to download music because they wanted the money to keep coming in. Now, if the name Lucien Grange, and there's a lot more to this, but again, this is a 3-year project that any one of you can dig into. There's a lot of meat on this bone for you guys to tear apart. So there's been talk about Drake and his very close relationship with Lucien Grange and UMG. And then like when Kanye West, now known as Ye, basically said when the conversation is steered and the name Drake pops up, he has said in the past, Drake has a rich baby daddy named Lucien and UMG. And then, I mean, it goes on and it basically accuses Drake from Ye's standpoint that he is I have to just phrase this properly, that he's serving his master. Yeah, I just had to stop there because you have to absorb. So like to understand this, Lucien Grange is the CEO of Universal Music Group, which I have discussed on this platform, and he is considered to be the most powerful person in the music industry. Okay. He is the person who signed Justin Bieber. There are other people too, Taylor Swift, Billie Eilish, Kendrick Lamar, and they had Kanye, but Kanye was let go in 2021 after allegedly saying anti-Semitic things, but I don't know, I'm not going to get into the Kanye situation. But what we know about Lucien Grange is that he was born in London, so makes sense that he would have a very close relationship with our friend Mandelson. He was born on February 29th, 1960. He is considered a businessman and a record executive, and his years active began in 1978. 1978. We're at the verge of 2025, so we're talking about very close to what, 50 years? He too has been knighted, so he's known as Sir Lucien Charles Grange. And again, he became the CEO of Universal Music Group in 2010. He began as an A&R staffer in the late 1970s. He's worked in the music industry his entire career. Billboard magazine named him the most powerful person in the music business on 4 different occasions in the 2010s, and he was named the executive of the decade in 2020. So he grew up in a Jewish family in North London. His older brother was Nigel Grange, the founder of Ensign Records, and which was later bought by Jack Wells. Grange left Queen Elizabeth's Grammar School for boys at the age of 18, and he began working as a runner at MPC, which was a talent scout company, in 1978. And after contacting several record label bosses, he was offered a job by Maurice Oberstein, chairman of CBS Records. Who do we know at CBS Records? Yes, Clive Davis. What do we know about CBS, period? Yes, that it is an arm of the three-letter agency. How do we know this? Because of the 1975 Church Committee hearings, Sig Mickelson, who testified that when he joined CBS, well, when he was given the promotion, because he was already working at CBS, in 1954, he knew that there was a pre-existing relationship with the three-letter agency and CBS. Now, CBS at the time had the record division, and that is where we have Grange beginning to work. So his first signing was the Psychedelic Furs. In 1982, he became the director of RCA Music Publishing. That's a lot of money, music publishing. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of power. 2 years later, he became an A&R director for MCA Records. He set up Polygram Music Publishing in 1986 and joined Polydor as general manager of A&R and business affairs in 1993. And then he was promoted to managing director of Polydor in 1997. Now, regarding Universal Music Group and Grange became the chairman of the UK division of the Universal Music Group. So, and then in 2005 of Universal Music Group International. And then he served in this position until 2010. On January 1st, 2011, he became CEO of Universal Music Group and then chairman on March the 9th, 2011, succeeding Doug Morris. Why is this important? Because if you look at the timeline between his conversations with Peter Mandelson and their secret conversations, of which David Geffen was a part, and the Rothschilds, to sanction the public for downloading music. This came from Lucien Grange. Lucien Grange has been named in some of the allegations against Combs, who is sitting in a jail today. There's a lot to unpack here. I am curious to hear your comments. I want you to please give this a like. If you have not subscribed, do so. I may be adding additional content about this situation in days to come. All right, guys. Hope you're having a good day. Bye.